Well, yesterday on UAP Tuesday, we talked about how Senator Gillabrand pretty much confirmed that there was going to be a hearing in September with Arrow. And then we started to question, well, what about the other hearing? What about the one with the actual whistleblowers? What about the one that was rumored with USOs and the one that both Burchett, Luna, Moskowitz, everybody was kind of pushing forward? What happened to that one? And it was Matt Laslo from Ascapol who had said, and I was talking to our own Pavel, that he was pretty much convinced that there was going to be two of them from what he gathered, that there would be this one that we talked about yesterday, and then there would be this other one, but the question is when, and when will we hear more information about that one? Well, it looks like Matt Laslo has done it again. He followed his report up with Gillabrand with this report from Luna, and here is that story. Here you go. So this is the interview that he did with Luna.
How are you?
It's really hot.
I'm hearing, well, yesterday Gillabrand told me the Senate's going to have a public UAP hearing in September.
Oh, I'm going to attend that if they do. And I'll also tell you we're actually going to talk about that on the floor today. Should have more details after we leave the floor.
Yep. But I'm hearing we're go and that Miss Nancy
Senate,
Mace.
Yeah. So Senate is going to do obviously their own thing, but I wish it would be bicameral, but Nancy Mace is for sure going to be chairing up the next one.
Cool.
Well, thank you.
I'll be watching the floor. Have a good one.
Okay, so there you have it. Short but sweet. Looks like exactly what Matt had said to Pavel, which is we're getting to, and it looks like Luna said, well, I'll be at that one if they indeed have it. So the question again, coupling off of what we said yesterday with Gillabrand, which is it's going to be like an Arrow hearing. This is the one that they actually put together that could lead to something. The question is like when. They said they're going to talk about it today. Okay, well then what is going to happen out of that when we get actually information for it? As I said, I stand by it. I don't think that it should happen until either, I think that Lester Nare had said, and I liked his suggestion that right after whoever gets nominated or whoever gets voted in, not sworn in, but once we find out who the new president is in November, that's when we should have the next hearing in November, because you do it right before the Schumer rounds bill to get some more momentum towards that. And I understand that. I think that makes sense, but I still think that it might benefit if you wait to see who the actual president is. But then it does make a lot of sense, though, if you can get some real credible witnesses to stir up some stuff and get people talking, that's going to push forward that UAPDA come December, rather. So this hearing, to me, is the important one. This is the one that I think is going to be similar to the one that we got with Grush, depending on who they got. The one with Gillabrand just seems to be one where you're just going to have Arrow talking. It's similar to what they did with that NASA thing, which was a whole bunch of nothing when NASA was answering questions, and they were kind of just acknowledging that things are there, but they didn't say that they ever had anything, or it was just a bunch of fluff. It was right after, I think, right after the Grush hearings, or I should say the UAP hearings with Grush in them back in July, or the NASA thing was around that, anywhere between August and September. I can't remember, but either way, it was just, I remember people like, oh, NASA's going to say something. They didn't say anything. And it's going to be the same thing with Arrow. However, this one, with Luna kind of moving forward on this thing, but even then, and I do think that Luna, Burchett, Moskowitz, Schumer, I think that they all are passionate about this subject. I think they all want to move the needle, but they're all politicians. You know what I mean? They're focusing on their team. You can call it what it is. It's their team right now. They want to get their person in to the office. So that's all hands on deck for that. So as much as I do believe that they're saying that she's like, oh yeah, we're working on that too. It's down on the list, you know, which is again crazy to me. Like I always feel like this should be top of the list on anything, if it is indeed, especially if you actually have information that could lead to it. Everything else should be secondary. But I understand that you got to play the game, because you have to play the game where it's like, yeah, you can go into that mentality that I have of like, this should be the end all be all. This should be the thing that we are focusing on. But if you do that, you know, and you do it my way, like, I don't want to talk about anything else. Who cares about everything else? Let's do that. This is all this guy talks about is this. We need to figure out this thing in this district. We got to figure out this and this. All this guy's talking about is the UFO stuff. You can't vote that guy, man. You can't let that person in. You can't let that person in. You can't do that. So you got to play the game. I get it. It's just, in the grand scheme of things, when you think about it, it's like, who cares about all this other stuff? Who cares? If all this stuff that we've been talking about here for the last year is true, and all of it is like the answers to something greater, who cares about this other stuff? Who gives a flying ish? Anyway, so the thing is, I think that this hearing is important. And I do think it's going to wind up happening in October. And I do think that one of the things that they'll probably wind up doing, whether this is probably, speaking of political, I think Gillabrand is Democrat. It's going to be run and nothing's going to come out of this. And I think because these other hearings are going to primarily be run by Republicans, I think that more stuff will happen and they can combat and say, look, that was a whole bunch of nothing. Look what we did. We got real answers here. And then, because I can even tell you, the people were like, that I was talking to, and I was in LA, and I was saying, yeah, I was covering this topic and talking about this topic. And like, oh, that's a right wing subject. Oh, that's all just crazy Republicans running that thing. I'm like, no, it's not. You can rattle off, again, I always bring up Moskowitz, AOC, Schumer, and then on the other side of it, of course, there's Burchett, Luna. There's rounds. There's a bunch on both sides. It shouldn't be, but people do lump it in, and that's why. Hopefully, who cares if they get, as long as they get the information out. I don't care who's talking about it, and I really do think that this one that Luna's talking about here, I do think that this will be the one that moves the needle at least a little, because I think that Gallaudet will be one of the witnesses. I think that Carl Nell will be one of the witnesses. They got to get Lukatsky. They have to. I mean, that guy needs to. That's the guy that, with Lou Elizondo. Now, whether or not Lou's going to testify or not, who knows? Let him and Stratton testify at the same time. Why don't all these guys testify? All of them. They're all talking to all these different podcasts. They all say they will, right? So they should. That should be it. It's like, it's one of these things that because of all the tape around it, right? It's like, I'd love to hear the behind the doors, the closed doors, and say, what do we think about all these interviews that these people are giving? It's like, do me a favor. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get every one of these people, put them in front of Congress, tell them to tell these same stories under oath. Let's see if they'll do it. And then let's just be done with it, or let's keep moving forward with it. So, we'll see. I think that it'll probably most likely happen in October. What do you guys think? I really want to know. Tell me. Want to hear your thoughts. So we're going to do something a little different today before we sign off. We have members now, and we've had some submit questions. So both on UAP Tuesday and then videos like this, we're going to take questions from members, and I'm going to read 3 of them today. And the first one is from David Voigts 5077. Says, if you or the public were presented a direct route to the truth about this topic, would you take that route? Or would you rather string out this process over the next year and decades because the direct route is a little scary? It's easier said than done. My first gut is to tell you, let it rip. Tell us what you got. Let's hear it. And as I mentioned with Tack Peter on the show yesterday, I could very well hear the information go, oh, maybe we shouldn't have known that. That's terrifying. I don't want my kids to know that. I don't want that. Oh my God, that's crazy. But I still stand by the idea that I don't think that any group of people should be able to tell or hold the real secrets from you or I. Why do they get to do that? If it's too scary, it's too scary. It's what it is. Why do they get to be the ones who are protecting us? Why do they get to be the ones who keep it? Let us figure out the information. So I think I'd want to know. And I think because it's like, again, it's that whole living under the matrix type thing. I'd want the information out. Tell me what you got. We got to process it. If the world's going to change over the night, then let's change it. Let's figure it out. Next one. Comic Blast Keenan why do you believe that these crashes are always in remote areas and never in a highly populated area? It's a great question. Question that's been asked, I think, a million times, right? And not to me necessarily, I'm just saying it's the right question to ask. And I think that some of them, depending on where and what parts of the world, I think that Brazil, other places, they said have been more populated and things of that nature. But you listen to the other side of it is that it's kind of calculated more so than it is crashes and more so like it's been gifted. So I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know it at all. I don't. The other side of it is also what Lou Elizondo says about how these things were being crashed or taken down through EMPs and things of that nature. And if that was indeed the case, then they could be calculated and coordinated of when and where they land. So I don't have an answer to it, but I assume that would be something along the lines. And then the last one is Gary Swift 9347. What is Avi Loeb up to lately? Well, I haven't spoken to him not since he was on the show, but I haven't heard a lot of reports from him too. If that's what you're saying, he was in the news a lot about this stuff, but hasn't been. I'm sure he's the Galileo project and other things that he's working on for sure, but he hasn't been commenting as much recently. I think when this stuff starts to heat up again, and it will, that's when you'll see the usual cast of characters like Avi Loeb and Danny Sheehan and all of them start to. It's been a little quiet, minus the Lou Elizondo stuff. Obviously, Lou's been front and center and talking a lot, but with the book and all that. But I think you're going to start to see the regular cast of characters at that point. So that's it, guys. Thanks for joining me here today. Thank you for the questions that came in from our DTE members. And if you want to be a member, you can join up today. You can ask some questions and get some special videos and things of that nature. Or if you want to help the show in a different way, you can get some of our sponsors. I'll tell you about two of them. I'll tell you both about Factor and Rocket Money. Here you go. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow. Guys, thanks for watching the show. Really appreciate you being here. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to hear about somebody I love, and that's Factor. Factor, to me, the meals are just delicious. And with sunny days here, fueling up with Factor there's no prep, there's no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus. Factory's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, and they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always find time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. I cannot tell you guys. We have been working on this studio. We have been doing stuff. And Brett, who is here, if you don't know Brett is one of the best. He's a producer, and he works on this studio, and he's gotten it looking really, really good. Well, Brett gets hungry. I said, Brett, guess what? I got some good meals for you, and we got Factor. And Brett's been most energy I've seen him running around because he's been eating well with Factor. They have 35 meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, and you'll always have new flavors to explore. You got to treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. So if you head to factormeals.com/DTE50, you use that code DTE50, you'll get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code DTE50 at factormeals.com/DTE50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while subscription is active. Get it. You'll thank me for it. I appreciate it. Hey, guys, thanks for watching the show. Listen, I have been there so many times where I've had subscriptions that I've been going through my phone, didn't even realize I still had them. I signed up at one point. I said, what am I doing? I'm wasting all this money. And I stopped doing that a while ago because I have Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a subscription service, and it is amazing. It's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. You get alerts if bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/DTE. That's rocketmoney.com/DTE. This thing keeps me organized. I've been using it for so long. I really love Rocket Money. I have it on my phone. I literally have an update right there. I love Rocket Money, and you will too. So check it out. The link's in the description.